I'm about to share something that will hit you hard, and once you hear it, you'll understand why the financial advice your parents gave you is quietly ruining your money. Right now, as you're watching this, your cash is slipping away. Not stolen from your wallet, not lost in some risky investment. It's disappearing through a completely legal system designed to look like it's helping you. And by the time we reach the end of this video, I'll show you the exact amount you're losing every year, the 3 hidden forces draining your wealth, and most importantly, the protection plan that took me 2 years to crack, but you'll grasp in the next 20 minutes. But here's why this matters now. Your chance to protect yourself is closing, not in a decade, not in 5 years, we're talking months, and I'll prove exactly why before we finish. Like and subscribe to Economy Ledger to get the UK financial truth no one else wants to say out loud. Because what I'm about to explain doesn't make me popular with banks or politicians, but it might be the most important thing you hear all year. Let me start with a story. Last month, I met with Sarah, a secondary school teacher in Manchester. 42 years old, been saving responsibly for 18 years. Never missed a mortgage payment, puts £300 a month into savings, does everything the financial advisors tell her. She asked me to go through her finances, and when I showed her the real numbers, she went pale. In 18 years of disciplined saving, she'd lost £57,000. Not from gambling, not from bad luck, from following the exact advice she was told to trust. And here's the scary part. Sarah isn't the exception, she's the standard. If you earn between £30,000 and £80,000 a year, this is happening to you right now. Let me show you how. The Bank of England says inflation is 2.1%. Your savings account, if you're lucky, pays 1.5%. Basic math says you're losing 0.6% a year. Annoying but manageable, right? Except that 2.1% number is a lie, and they know it's a lie. The inflation basket, the collection of items used to calculate the rate, hasn't matched real British life since the 1980s. It's weighted toward things that keep getting cheaper. Televisions, electronics, items you buy once every few years. Meanwhile, everything that actually drains your bank balance every single month is climbing at double, triple, even quadruple that rate. Your energy bill hasn't gone up 2%, it's doubled. Your food shopping isn't up 2%, it's gone from £60 to £95 a week. Council tax, train fares, insurance, petrol, childcare. The unavoidable essentials are rising at 8, 10, 12%. Independent analysis, the kind investment firms rely on for their own decisions, puts real inflation for essential spending at 8%. Some months, it's closer to 10. So let's do the math they hope you never do. You have £20,000 in savings. Your bank pays 1.5% interest. That's £300 a year before tax. Sounds fine. But with real inflation at 8%, your money needs to grow by £1,600 just to keep its value. You're not earning £300, you're losing £1,300 in actual purchasing power every single year. Now scale that. With £50,000 in savings, you're losing £3,250 of real value annually. £100,000, you're losing £6,500 a year, while thinking you're being responsible. And none of this is accidental. The banks know exactly what's happening. They borrow from the Bank of England at 5.25% and lend it to you on credit cards at 23%. They post record profits while your savings decay. But here's where it turns darker. And this is the part that should genuinely worry you. The government isn't trying to stop it, they need it to happen. Let me introduce you to the dullest sounding wealth extraction tool ever invented. It's called fiscal drag, and its cruelty is brilliant. Here's how it works. The government sets tax thresholds. The personal allowance, £12,570. The higher rate threshold, £50,270. Then they freeze them. They've been frozen since 2021 and will stay frozen until at least 2028. But wages are rising, right? Inflation gives you a 3% raise, maybe 4 if you're lucky. Sounds like progress, except that raise isn't real growth. It's just keeping up with rising costs. Your actual purchasing power hasn't improved. but your nominal pay has, and that pushes more of your income into higher tax bands. You start paying 40% tax on money that, in real terms, is worth no more than what you earned 5 years ago at 20%. The Institute for Fiscal Studies ran the numbers. By 2028, fiscal drag will push 4 million people into higher tax brackets. 4 million people who never imagined they'd be higher rate taxpayers. Teachers, nurses, police officers, suddenly labelled high earners because the government refused to move a number on a spreadsheet. And make no mistake, this isn't a mistake, it's not oversight, it's the only way the Treasury can raise taxes without officially raising taxes. Because if they announced income tax was going to 45%, there would be outrage. But if they quietly let inflation shove you into higher bands while pretending nothing changed, you blame your employer. Bad luck. The economy. Anything except the system that was built to extract as much as possible from the middle class. And here's the part that should make you angry. The truly wealthy don't pay this tax. They don't rely on income through wages. They use dividends, capital gains, offshore structures. Fiscal drag doesn't touch them. This entire setup targets the middle. The people who work for their money, save what they can, and follow the rules. But fiscal drag is only one part of this machine. The second arm is even more dangerous because it targets the one asset class British people trust more than anything: property. For 50 years, we've been sold the same story. Property always rises. Buy a house, build equity, retire comfortably. Your parents probably made more from their home than from their entire careers. So you scrape together a deposit, you take a 95% mortgage, you're paying 5.5% interest, and you think you're creating wealth. Let me show you the math estate agents hope you never look at. You buy a £300,000 house, £15,000 deposit, mortgage of £285,000. At 5.5% over 25 years, you repay £470,000. That's £185,000 in interest alone. Your £300,000 home actually costs you £485,000. But surely the house will appreciate, right? Property always goes up, except it doesn't, not in real terms. Strip out inflation over 25 years, and the average UK house has barely moved in actual purchasing power. The numbers get bigger, sure, but everything else rises at nearly the same pace. You're not building wealth. You're just watching nominal prices increase while your real buying power stays flat. And that's before we even mention the real expenses: council tax, maintenance, insurance, repairs. The true cost of ownership adds another 2 to 3% a year. When you factor that in, most homeowners are barely breaking even. They just never run the full calculation. But here's the part that should really unsettle you. Last year, foreign investment in UK property reached £49 billion. Middle Eastern sovereign wealth funds, Chinese corporations, oligarchs from places you wouldn't expect. They're not buying these homes to live in them. They're using them as storage for wealth, safety deposit boxes with postcodes. In prime London areas, 60% of new builds are sold to overseas buyers before a single British resident gets a viewing. These homes sit empty. Dark windows, no families, no community, just financial assets appreciating while locals are priced out of their own neighbourhoods. The government knows this is happening, and they don't intervene because they need high property prices. The entire UK economy leans on the illusion of property wealth. If prices correct to realistic levels, banks fall, pensions fall, everything falls, so they keep the illusion running. And you keep playing along, believing you're creating stability when you're really just paying off debt in a market inflated on purpose. But even that isn't the worst part. There's a third mechanism being built right now that makes everything I've just explained look mild. The Bank of England is developing something called the digital pound. Sounds modern, doesn't it? Efficient, convenient, the future of money. What it actually represents is total financial control. Before you roll your eyes and chalk this up to conspiracy talk, let me be absolutely clear. This isn't guesswork. The Bank of England has published consultation papers, allocated funds, built infrastructure. The target launch window is between 2025 and 2028. They say it's about modernisation. Inclusion, reducing crime, nice, harmless goals. But look at what's already happened in China with the digital yuan. Money that expires if you don't spend it in time. Purchases blocked if your social score drops. Geographic limits on where your money will work. The UK government claims they'd never adopt anything like that. But they also said they'd never lock down the whole country. They said they wouldn't print hundreds of billions. They said they wouldn't freeze tax thresholds for 7 years. The infrastructure for control is being built right now. Whether they use it is a political decision, and political decisions change with governments. Do you really want your wealth to exist only as computer code that can be edited, restricted, or erased by whoever is in power? This isn't paranoia, it's pattern recognition. Every financial crisis brings more control, never less. And they're building the ultimate control tool while telling you it's for your convenience. Now here's where most people go wrong. The doomsday preppers, the gold fanatics, the people who try to escape the entire system. You can't fight this by running from it. You can't win by burying cash in your garden or panic buying cryptocurrency you barely understand. The solution isn't to exit the system, it's to use the same tools the wealthy have been using for decades. They're sitting in plain sight, fully legal and available to anyone who knows where to look. Let me walk you through the 3 pillars of protection. The first pillar is maximization, but not in the way your bank suggests. Your high street bank will steer you toward cash ISAs paying 1.5%. You might as well set your money on fire for warmth. What you actually need is a stocks and shares ISA. But here's the vital detail people overlook. You don't pick individual stocks. You don't try to time the market. You don't gamble on trends. You invest in global index funds that track the entire world economy. The FTSE All-World Index has averaged 8.7% annually over the last 30 years. After fees, you're looking at 8%. That keeps pace with real inflation, which means you're not losing ground. But here's the move nobody mentions. You can transfer old ISAs from previous years into better performing ones without losing your tax-free status. Most people have old ISAs sitting untouched from previous jobs. Accounts they forgot existed. Earning nothing or close to nothing. Transfer them. Consolidate them. Put them to work. You can contribute £20,000 a year. That's $40,000 for a couple. After 10 years, if you max out your contributions every year, that's £400,000 invested, growing tax-free. Compounding means you could have around $700,000 after 20 years. Full protection from capital gains tax, dividend tax, and income tax. It's one of the last remaining tax shelters the government hasn't dismantled. Second pillar. Premium bonds, but not for the reason most people think. Everyone knows premium bonds, the classic government savings product your grandmother swears by. £1 minimum, 50,000 maximum. Instead of interest, you enter monthly prize draws. Most people ignore them because the effective return is only about 4.4%. Why bother when you can get more elsewhere? Because they're missing the clever part. Premium bonds aren't investments. Their financial camouflage. That 50,000 doesn't appear in means testing for benefits. It doesn't count toward your estate and care home fee assessments. You can access the money instantly with no penalties. And here's the twist. It's the only financial product where the government guarantees your capital while also giving you complete privacy from other government departments. It shouldn't make sense, but that's exactly why it works. Third pillar. Understanding offshore investing without turning into a criminal. The media has destroyed this term, say offshore, and people think tax evader, criminal, Panama Papers. But holding investments outside the UK is completely legal and increasingly essential. You can open accounts in Ireland, Luxembourg, or the Channel Islands as a UK resident. These aren't tax havens. You still declare everything to HMRC. You still pay UK tax on any gains. But your wealth exists outside the reach of future UK policy changes. If the government introduces capital controls, wealth taxes, or if the pound collapses, your money is already in euros or dollars, sitting safely in Dublin or Jersey. And before you say this is only for millionaires, you can open an Irish investment account with £5,000. Channel Islands accounts start around 10,000. This isn't about avoiding tax, it's about avoiding political risk. Now timing becomes everything. The window to protect your wealth isn't endless, it's closing fast. The next budget is in March 2026. Every economic signal points toward new wealth taxes, bigger inheritance tax exposure, and potential ISA restrictions. The Bank of England's digital pound trials begin in 2027. Once that system is live, moving money becomes trackable in ways that don't exist today. Interest rates are expected to stay high until at least 2028, meaning continued mortgage pressure, sluggish property prices, and stubborn inflation. The demographic cliff hits in 2029 when the biggest wave of baby boomers hits pension age, straining public finances and triggering major tax rises. By 2030, the UK financial landscape will look completely different. The protective tools available today won't be around. The window is 5 years at best, more likely 3, maybe even less. But here's the harsh truth. Knowing all this means nothing if you do nothing with it. Most people will watch this, nod along, maybe share it with someone. Then they'll return to their 1.5% savings account and hope things improve. They won't. Hope isn't a financial plan. Neither is frustration, fear, or waiting for politics to shift. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as intended, just not for your benefit unless you choose to change that now. Open the ISA this week. Research global index funds today. Make the transfers. Set up standing orders. Look at premium bonds for your emergency savings. Research international investment platforms. Start small if you must, but begin. Because wealth protection isn't about being rich, it's about not becoming poor. And in a system designed to slowly drain the middle class, doing nothing is moving backward. Inflation takes from you every day. Fiscal drag tightens with every pay rise. The property ladder lifts higher while you're still climbing. The only question is whether you'll be a victim or one of the few who steps out of the trap. The wealthy aren't smarter. They don't work harder. They just understand the game. And now, so do you. Sarah, the teacher I mentioned earlier, after I explained these strategies, she transferred her old ISAs into global index funds within a week. She opened a Channel Islands account with £12,000. She maxed out premium bonds for herself and her husband. 6 months later, I checked in. Her investments had grown by 9%, but more importantly, she told me she sleeps better. Because she's no longer hoping for improvement, she's protected no matter what happens. That's the difference between knowing and acting. Every month you delay costs you money you never recover. Compound interest works both ways, either for you or against you. There's no middle ground, no pause button, no time out while you think it over. Your wealth is either rising or shrinking right now. Today, this minute. The solutions exist. The strategies are legal, the window is open, but not for long. The UK economy is entering a stage where traditional financial advice isn't just outdated, it's dangerous. The rules your parents lived by no longer apply. Save money. Buy a house. Trust the system. That belonged to a time of growth. We're in a time of extraction, where growth is replaced by redistribution, where inflation is a policy tool, not a mistake, where the middle class is tapped for revenue like a fading resource. But you don't have to be part of that. You can be the person who sees what's coming and steps aside, who uses the system's own tools to build protection from its consequences, who understands that in a game set against you, the only winning move is to play a different game. No one is coming to rescue you. The government needs your money. The banks gain from your confusion. Your employer wants you at your desk. The only person who can secure your financial future is you, and you've just spent 20 minutes learning exactly how. The rest is action. Subscribe to Economy Ledger for more UK financial truth the mainstream won't touch. The financial establishment doesn't want you informed. They want you compliant. We're here to make sure you're neither. Your wealth, your future, your choice. The clock is running. Don't let it hit zero.